Hi friends, welcome to Ayishu's English Grove. If you're watching my video for the first time, please subscribe Ayishu's English Grove and click on the bell icon. I'm here to enrich you all with a new video. In this video, we are going to pursue a poem, Childhood, written by Markus Natten. About the poet. Markus Natten was a poet from Norway. Details of his life are very sketchy, so it is unclear when and where he was born. In this poem, he tries to find out when he lost his childhood. Through his poem, he wrote that people do not live the lives that they preach. Main theme. This is a delightful poem where the poet wonders when his childhood came to an end. He wonders if it happened when he could distinguish between factual knowledge and concepts. He then moves on to the ideas children have about grown-ups. They notice that though adults speak of love, they do not behave lovingly. The poet wonders if his childhood got over when he started thinking independently. Introduction. In this poem, the poet thinks over his lost childhood. He wonders about the moment where he lost the innocence and realized that the world is not what he seemed it to be. He recalls when his thoughts changed and he realized the hypocrisy of the people around him. He finally settled down to the idea that his childhood went to some forgotten place and is hidden in the face of an innocent infant. Let's move on to the summary. The poet seems puzzled about the loss of childhood. It is natural in the process of growing up. Still, the poet tries to find an answer to his two queries. When did my childhood go? And where did my childhood go? The first possibility of the time of departure of his childhood relates to the age when he had completed the age of 11. It was then that he developed a power of understanding. Then he became aware that hell and heaven could not be found in geography. Since they could not be located anywhere in the world, he concluded that they did not exist. He thus reached a logical conclusion based on his reasoning power. The second possibility relates to the time when he realized the hypocrisy of the adults. They were not all that they seemed to be. They talked of love and gave advice of love, but did not act so affectionately. The third possibility relates to the time when he found that he was the master of his mind. He could use it whichever way he chose. He could now produce his own thoughts and need not repeat those of others. A sense of individuality dawned on him. He wonders whether he lost his childhood on one of these days. In the final stanza, the poet dwells on the problem where his childhood has disappeared. On the basis of his limited knowledge, he thinks that his childhood went to some forgotten place that was hidden in an infant's face. The poet implies that adolescence follows childhood in the same way as the childhood had replaced infancy. It is a stage in the process of growing up. Let's move on to the poem Childhood by Markus Natten. When did my childhood go? Was it the day I ceased to be living? Was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography and therefore could not be? Was that the day? Childhood by Markus Natten begins with a question. The poet is not sure when he became an adult. It was when he was 11 years old. Then he realized that hell and heaven had no real existence in the age in which he was living. These are just the components of a child's bedtime story. He stresses the word geography by capitalizing it. It is a reference to the fact that at that time the poet started to familiarize himself with the rational world. The poet uses the line "and therefore could not be" for emphasizing that he could not freely roam in his imaginary worlds like before. There should not be any room for such childlike dreaming now. Time has changed. He is not a child anymore. The use of refrain in the last line highlights the poet's transition into childhood. When did my childhood go? Was it the time I realized that adults were not all they seemed to be? They talked of love and preached of love, but did not act so lovingly. Was that the day? In the second stanza, the poet foregrounds the attitude of mature ones towards a child who has just become an adult. He had a realization that the adults around him were not behaving as they did before. When he was a child, they pampered him. He got all the things when he wanted. The most important thing here is love. The poet says that with that time their love had also changed. They thought it was inappropriate to treat him as a child. But they could not understand the poet had just stepped into maturity. It was a long way to be like his parents. It was just the beginning. He still needed their assistance and foremost their love. Adults cannot understand the mental happenings of a kid. They are not machines. There is no switch in a human heart which can turn on the mode of adulthood in a child. It is a process, and processing of a human mind needs time. For them, it is a critical time. A lot of things start to enter into their lives and puzzle them daily. What they need is only love to welcome the mental transformation with a patient heart. When did my childhood go? Was it when I found my mind was really mine, to use whichever way I choose, producing thoughts that were not those of other people, but my own and mine alone? Was that the day? In this section too, the poet asks the same question to himself. The refrain used at the beginning of each stanza refers to an important idea. The state of childhood was an important thing in his life. As an adult, he laments the loss of innocence, imaginative spirit, and spontaneity of thought when a child enters into manhood. Whatsoever, here in this stanza, there is a concept of self-awareness. It grows up in the mind of a child after stepping into adolescence. According to the poet, it made him aware of his own body and thoughts. The poet could not think like a child. He started to become self-centered. Thereafter, he lost the touch of purity which is always there in an infant's soul. Where did my childhood go? It went to some forgotten place that's hidden in an infant's face. That's all I know. In this stanza, the poet becomes practical. He accepts that he is an adult now. He can no longer think like a child and cry over the spilled milk. What is gone is gone. Now he asks himself where the childhood had gone. It might have gone to a place where he cannot visit anymore. Suddenly, the truth appears in his mind. In reality, he is an adult, but the essence of childhood is always there. In the heart of a child and the happy face of an infant, purity is glittering in its full luster. There is no reason to be sad. Those innocent faces, brimming with a hope of a new day, are always there to cheer him up. That's all he knows. Let's perceive few figures of speech here. Refrain. It's a group of words repeated at certain parts in a poem, song, or speech. Example, when did my childhood go? Was that the day? Antithesis. In antithesis, a striking opposition or contrast of words or sentiments is made in the same sentence. Example, hell and heaven. Alliteration. It's a repetition of a consonant sound at the beginning of two or more consecutive words. Here are few examples. Hope you all understood this poem, Childhood. Thank you.